Bookworms. So today I'm going to do a review for you guys of The Shining Girls by Lauren Bukes, and I don't have the book with me right now because it's over in Florida, but I'll pop a picture up there so you can see what the cover looks like. Now, I bought this book at the airport when I went to Florida a week or two back because I didn't have anything to read on the plane, so I thought I'd just pick it up, give it a quick read because I didn't have anything else to do for 9 hours, and I pretty much finished it by the time I was a couple of days into my holiday. I thought I'd enjoy it more than I did, but yes, I'm going to give it probably 3 stars. I have actually seen a review of this by Luke Lane Reads. I'll pop his channel link in the description below if you want to go check him out. He's pretty awesome. And he basically said he wasn't overly blown away by it. And I thought I'd give it a go anyway because I really liked the idea of the story. But like him, I liked the idea of the story more than I actually liked the story. You're going to have to forgive me because I've pretty much forgotten every character's names and I can't even check because I don't have the book in front of me, but it's basically about a mass murderer who can time travel. So he goes in different times and he murders what he calls the Shining Girls. And I kind of thought after finishing the book, or at least some point in the story, I would kind of be informed of what a girl has to do to be classed as a Shining Girl, like whether she has to excel at something or what, because I figured that's what it was. I figured it was people who were really, really good at something and so they were killed, but it doesn't seem to be the case because some of the characters weren't overly amazing at anything, they were just kind of there. So that's the first thing that I didn't really like about this book, is the fact that I'm not entirely sure what a girl has to do to be classed as a Shining Girl, but anyway. He basically tries to kill one character and she survives, and so she basically hunts him down back. She wants to find out who tried to kill her and why. So you see the story from several different people's point of view. You see it from the killer's point of view, you see it from the survivor's point of view. And it's quite interesting because you guys know that I don't really like books that come from quite a lot of different points of view or different time frames. But I think in the context of this story, that kind of technique of jumping between people and jumping between time frames, it really worked. It really enhanced the story. And so that's something that I would usually say is a negative remark. But for this book, I'm actually saying it really worked. And I think that's one of the positive points of this book, was that it did do that really well, because you were always aware of what time frame you were in, who was speaking, because things were described so well. You can just tell. And I think that's how a story should be, and I think that's why I dislike stories with different points of view, because you can't always tell who's speaking, so you have to go back and check. But this one, it worked. It's really well done. So yeah, something I did enjoy about the book. Another thing that I did quite like about the book was it wasn't all about this girl hunting her killer back. It went through the killer kind of killing off all the previous Shining Girls. So you kind of meet the girl when she's alive, you kind of see her encounter with this serial killer, and you don't get told in detail how she dies, but you get told she dies. And I think that really helped to fill out the story a little bit, as opposed to just a story being all about this girl hunting her killer, because that would get really tedious and kind of boring really quickly. So I'm kind of glad they didn't do that. One thing that I didn't like, it wasn't really anything to do with the story, it just made me feel really uncomfortable as a person, was the fact that because the story was told from the killer's point of view occasionally, I actually, at the beginning of the book, I found myself liking this character. And that freaked me out slightly because I knew he was a killer, I knew he was pretty messed up in the head, and yet there's a part of me that goes, actually, he's a pretty cool character. Near the end of the book, that changed, but it's strange for you to like a character that goes around killing all these other characters. So I think even though that made me feel uncomfortable, I'm actually going to put that down as a positive point for this book, because that is a really difficult thing to do, to make a reader like a killer. So kudos to Lauren for that. One thing I actually didn't like about this book was the fact that the characters had no idea what was going on by the end. I figured by the end of the book that the person who was hunting her killer back would figure out that he was a time traveller, or figure out at least something about him, but she didn't. And so as a reader, I knew all these things that by the end of the book, the main character still didn't know. And I didn't really like that, because she didn't really figure out that he was a time traveller, and the killer kind of left a souvenir by each body. So he would take something from one girl and leave it on the body of the next girl. And so that was like gone into in quite a lot of detail. They describe what object was left on what body, why it was out of place, and it should have been a hint that he was a time traveller, but they just didn't pick up on it, and they didn't really explain why he was leaving souvenirs. There was one time that there was a souvenir left on one of the corpses, and it was obviously out of place time-wise. It was like the first female baseball player or something. It was like a card, like a playing card, and it was about 10 or 15 years before this player ever made it to the major leagues, and so that should have been some sort of hint that he was from the future, because obviously this person hadn't existed yet, and there was like a little toy horse that was found on a body a couple years before this model was into circulation. And so I thought that would help the character figure out that he could travel through time, but she just didn't really think anything of it, and that kind of annoyed me, because I just feel like there was so much potential and it just wasn't there, because her entire focus was on killing this man and she just didn't figure out anything about him. And I think as a story that should have been there, so that was really disappointing. What I'm about to say next is probably not something you'd want to hear if you haven't read the book, so if you want to turn off now and avoid spoilers, that's fine. I'll bid you adieu. But if you're carrying on, whether or not you've read the book and you just don't care about spoilers, I'm not sure. But another thing I didn't really like about this book was the fact that at the ending, the reporter friend of this girl was really badly beaten up. He was either stabbed or shot, I can't remember which one, but he was basically in the 1980s as opposed to like the 90s, and because he got pushed through a different time frame by the killer, and then he managed to somehow crawl his way back through, and they left the building where like the killer lived, and the ending of the book basically says, oh yeah, and there was several policemen outside. That's not an ending. Like, it's not clear whether the reporter friend lives. It's not clear whether they get together, because there was like a love thing going on between them, and you're not sure whether that actually happens or not. And I kind of figured that he should have asked her why she didn't come through and save him, and then she could have been like, oh no, because I opened the door and there was nothing there, and then that could have been something that helped them figure out that he wasn't actually in the present day when it happened. But they just let it slip. He was like, oh, there's a girl inside the house who's not helping me and I'm being beaten up. That's fine, that's completely fine, that's understandable. And this girl, these two people go through a doorway, she then opens the door and they've disappeared, and she just accepts that. She thinks it's fine. Like, nothing unusual about people going through doors and disappearing. But yeah, so I did enjoy the idea of the book. I just think it wasn't carried out to its full potential, hence only 3 stars. I really wanted to give it more, but to be honest, it's not a great book. I mean, give it a go if that's the sort of thing that you're into, but don't have high expectations is what I'm saying. And yeah, I will see you guys soon. Bye.